Hello and welcome to the Dad and Buried podcast, the parenting podcast that lowers the bar for other parents. As always, I am Mike, aka Dad and Buried. Joining me today is my lovely co-host, Mom and Buried. Say hello.
Hello. Speak for yourself and lowering the bar.
You know what? I said that last week with Pete, where I'm like, when she's on, I can't say that lowering the bar part, and then I said it anyway. You know what? Because I'm a rebel. I do what I want, right?
To a fault.
To a fault. All right, so speaking of to a fault, we're talking about empty nest syndrome. Now, if you followed us, either of us for a while, you know that we don't actually have any kids in college or anything like that.
We do not have a kid in college.
But for the first time ever, both of our kids are in school. This process was delayed by the pandemic and the Hammer only doing preschool at home. So it's been
doing pre-K at home last year.
Pre-K at home. So this year is the first year where he's actually going to school every day, and it's been an adjustment, a more difficult adjustment for some of us than others. We're going to discuss why it's an adjustment. We're going to discuss some of the challenges with that. We're going to get some of your input and feedback, because I asked a couple of questions on my Instagram. I know this is a topic that's near and dear to Mom and Buried's tear ducts. We've had some tough conversations about it over the past few weeks.
It's been an emotional time.
It has been an emotional time. It's quite an adjustment for everybody. And not only do we have to deal with all of that kind of nonsense, we've got Halloween coming up. We've got Mama Bear's birthday coming up. I can't stress enough how stressed out I am around Mama Bear's birthday.
Well, I really hope it pans out for you.
It's not going to. That's why I'm so stressed out about it.
Well, I think you should probably stress a little more so it pans out for you.
The stress works against me. At a certain point, I'm like, I'm too big to succeed. Does that mean anything? Too big to fail. Your birthday's too big to fail, but I will fail. I often fail, right? With your birthday?
Yeah, sure. You have succeeded. I remember last year being a lovely birthday.
Anyway, so before we get into that, we do want to talk a little bit about, so one of the things about, so we didn't really get into this in the questions that I asked about the empty nest thing. So I asked a couple of polls and I got some feedback about how other parents are feeling, not only after a year and a half of kids doing remote schooling and now suddenly being back in school, but if there are other parents like us who are adjusting to, none of their kids being home, because the Hammer's our youngest and he is now at school and now the house is empty. I'm working from home. It's a lot easier for me to work from home.
And can I clarify the empty nest thing? Because this term never crossed my mind. Empty Nest was a bad show in the 80s starring
Richard Mulligan.
And it was a spin-off of like Golden Girls or something, right?
So,
they were like the neighbors of Golden Girls. Fantastic show. Wonderful show.
Everybody likes
We'll
Golden
watch it
Girls.
today. What's not to love? Anyway.
I think people like empty
and
nests,
also it's when people
though.
go off to college, right? That's what that's about. So I am laying by the pool this summer, just chilling out, thinking about nothing.
Right.
When your aunt comes up to me, and the Hammer's great aunt, lovely woman, comes up to me and says, "So you're going to be an empty nester." And
so she planted the seed.
Literally drove a knife through my heart.
Literally. So she's dead.
I'm dead. Literally.
Is that what literally means?
Literally killed me. Might as well have, honestly. And since then, I've heard that said a couple times about having kindergarten empty nest. And, fuck off, auntie.
Which aunt was it? Let's let people know so they can send hate mail. We'll dox her.
It was Munch's favorite.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
between
Good to
you
know.
and me. Okay?
Good to know.
So you know.
She does not have a history of butting in. Anyway, so look, that brought some feelings to the surface from Mom and Buried. One of them, again, which we didn't talk about, which I didn't ask about, was a little bit of the regret that you're having over the past year and a half. Because from my eyes, the COVID thing, obviously unprecedented. We didn't anticipate it. And we got to spend a lot more time together than most families who don't typically homeschool, which we don't and would never do unless forced to because there was a global pandemic, which is what happened. We had our kids and ourselves all around in the house all the time for the better part of a year and a half. And to me, we were forced to bond, and we spent a lot more time with our children than we normally would have, because the Hammer would have been in preschool. Detective Munch would have been at school all the time, and instead they were at home. And we had a lot more time watching shows together and hanging out together. Mama Buried is a little bit disappointed that you didn't spend a little bit more time like going to the park and stuff.
Yes. I mean, I guess, so now that they're all gone, like I've been taking like lots of like long walks in the park and stuff and like sort of exercising in the park.
And you're loving it.
And I mean, no, I enjoy doing that stuff, but I feel like I can count on one hand the amount of times that like I drug the Hammer to the park and did things that I know he liked. And sometimes it was really hard to do that. And of course, we were like
for a lot of reasons.
Scheduling around remote school. And then when it was nice enough to do those things for the most part, Munch was going back to hybrid school. And so you're just scheduling around that. So there was some scheduling stuff. But there were definitely days where we were just in a rut of sitting around and like messing around on the phone and like just doing bullshit. And I just really wish that I had used that time wisely.
Well,
and I thought we were going to start with some Boo Bash and some other bullshit. Well, like, why are we doing this right now?
We're getting to that. We're getting to that. No, we're not off topic. See, the break comes after the break. We haven't gotten to the break yet.
I don't understand.
In my mind,
I don't know why you're trying to make me cry. Like,
I wasn't trying to make you cry. I want to emphasize the positive. I think, the main reason you're really enjoying those walks in the park these days is because kids are not with you, which is why they're enjoyable. B, I think everybody was in kind of the same boat. Everybody had the pandemic doldrums where, we were stuck inside because we couldn't necessarily go outside. There weren't all that many things to do. We weren't always feeling well, whether it was COVID or not, and you legitimately had COVID and you have MS, and there are reasons that sometimes lying in bed is necessary. The kids wanted to play with each other. They were having a good time. We were around and available for them all the time. I just don't think there's a reason to get too caught up in what could have been and what should have been. It's not productive. But I understand that now that everything is back and suddenly we've gone from 0 to 60 in terms of the kids being around every day to the kids never being around, really adjusting to kind of the emotions that come with that. And some of that I understand, like a little bit of regret that you feel like you didn't use your time wisely. I loved it, caught up on a lot of TV shows, played some video games with my kids. We played some board games. We played Family Feud. I got Stratego. I feel like the bonding
you played Stratego once.
No, more than once.
Is the point.
3 times.
Like, some of those things that we aim to do, and I think this happens a lot in families, you don't do. And now looking back at all that time that we had, I want some back.
Well, a lot of the reason we don't do those things is kids are really annoying.
Children,
it is
time
fleeting.
with little kids is fleeting.
Yes.
And now that they're gone out of the house forever, you know what I mean? As far as like on a daily basis, I'm like, we got to get our shit together. I miss having some of that time.
Well, these are the questions that I asked in a couple of polls.
It seems like we'll have some time to talk about it.
We'll have some time to talk about it.
After the break and everything. And you can talk about all the other things you, want to do with the kids that you'll do once and then never again. Yes, but remember fondly.
Right. Like last week I said, if there's something your wife wants to do, you do it once, that you don't want to do, you do it once and then you nip it in the bud, or else it becomes a tradition and you can never get out of it ever again, which is why we go apple picking and pumpkin picking every year, because hollowed traditions are impossible to break from. Anyway, we'll come back from the break after Mama Buried yells at me and we will cover the rest of the topic. Thank you. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about, the empty nest syndrome, which we already covered, why that's sort of a misnomer. Thanks a lot, Aunt. I'm not going to say her name. We don't need to, again, call her out for ruining Mama Buried's the end of her summer and the beginning of her fall.
There were lots of other people who said it, and apparently,
we asked I asked a few questions of my followers about this, their emotions and what they're feeling as their kids are all back to school. Before we get into that,
I guess it's not even just kindergarten, because a lot of people had all of their kids home with them for the last year and a half.
Even kids who were in college had to be home, and they were doing college home. Remotely and all that stuff. But before we get into that, we did want to talk about some of the kind of the recent happenings go around. So one of the benefits of the Hammer being back in school is his school actually celebrates Halloween
carnival
instead of Character Day, which to be like non-denominational and I guess not celebrate paganism or whatever. The Hammer focuses on Halloween. So he got to actually dress up and go to a Halloween carnival. We did that this weekend. You may see my shaved face because I had to be Clark Kent and he doesn't have a beard. She made me shave my face to do it, even though
I didn't have to be realistic.
I look awful with a shaved face. We can all agree. Somebody commented, I posted about it. Somebody commented on my photo, yuck. Oh, thanks.
Well, I like your face.
Thanks, honey.
But whatever.
That's all she's got. She doesn't care. She's a slave to the Halloween costume, right? And it's not even the real costume. It's not even what we're going to be on actual Halloween, which you may or may not see in a couple of weeks, depending on how quickly this grows back. But so we did the Halloween carnival, and the Hammer was like the best day of his entire life. We asked him on a scale of 1 to 10, how was it? He said 1,000,000. So that was a
very
success.
Cool. I was very excited about it. I love Halloween. I like that they embraced it and none of this bullshit like, oh, it's character day. I'm like, no, listen, it's Halloween. Everyone knows it's Halloween.
If we want to worship the devil, that's on us. You got to let us.
Exactly.
It's a free country.
I mean, so I'm 1 point for this school, and he had an amazing time.
The kids are all in on Halloween this year. So like when we normally do Spooktober, we've been watching a lot of stuff with them. We're in the middle of the last season of Stranger Things, which is a rewatch for us, but a first watch for them.
Well, yes, and I have tried with Detective Munch, like last year
previously,
and
he was
stuff,
freaked out.
And he kind of cut it off because it was freaking him out.
Does not freak out the Hammer.
Oh, no. Well, because we didn't have the Hammer in the room watching it because it was like too scary and stuff. And then he would just like wander in.
We thought it was too scary for him. We were like, oh, we can't let him see this. But now because we want to, like, one of the things, like, we want to spend more time with them and you want to get all your Hammer snuggles that you can. He's been brought into the room and, he can turn around and hug mommy or do his own thing.
Well, but it started because he just kept wandering
in the room and checking it out, and he's been interested.
And so, anyway, perhaps horrible parenting, whatever, but
Definitely.
Then again, I was shown like
tame.
Ghoulies when I was 5, so what are you gonna do?
Ghoulies. When they're coming out of the toilet. We go by that on like HBO Max. You can see Ghoulies and Critters. We showed them Gremlins. He liked Gremlins.
Absolutely terrified of toilets for like 20 years. Thanks,
You were.
Mom and Dad. Yeah, thanks. Well done. Good parenting. So he'll just be terrified of like, I don't know, everything for 20 years. It'd be fine.
No, but he's not.
He doesn't.
That's the thing. He's a sociopath.
Not at all. He does not care. He is not
like
really
Detective Munch will get nervous about something that's on screen, and the Demogorgon or the Mind Flayer or whatever, and the Hammer is all in. We'll get nervous that something's gonna be scary for him. We're like, no.
I'll try to shield his eyes or turn him away. And he's like fighting me. He's wrestling to get out, and he's just like, no.
He needs to see.
I want in.
When I was a kid, I saw Temple of Doom in the theater, and my dad did this when the Kali Ma, the heart ripped out part, and I didn't get to see that until later when I was at Dan Goldberg's house. It was very disappointing.
Actually describe what you're doing.
Well, he was pulling the heart. Oh yeah, he would cover my eyes as the bad guy was chanting. Was it Mola Ram was pulling people's hearts out of their chest. Spoiler alert, Temple of Doom.
Do you know something that I'm not excited about
Indiana Jones 5? Me neither.
Halloween is so we had a really good run with Halloween costumes and family Halloween costumes.
Group, like a big group costume.
And it was usually based around whatever Munch wanted to do.
Harry Potter,
Avengers.
We did a pirate thing once.
We did Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done, and we did E.T.
Yeah. But he wasn't even a part of that. That was just
wasn't.
The Hammer.
That was the Hammer. But we've had a good run of a lot of things. And then last year was the first year where they did their own things because Hammer was old enough to have his own opinion.
Yeah, these damn kids with their interests.
I know, and you can't get them to agree.
Right. So they're immediately the kids are separate. So the 11-year-old and the 5-year-old want to do totally different things.
Right. Like, the Hammer last year wants to be a dinosaur because he just legitimately wants to be a dinosaur. And Munch wants to be a pop culture, thing all the time.
Mandalorian or something like that.
Right. He always wants to be some sort of
how are we
character.
Supposed to be dinosaurs?
Right. And you can't play into it. You can't make them meet in the middle, which sucks because it was so fun.
When we all did it together.
Yes, but then I'm like, it's their childhood.
So now, like last year, we did the Goonies where you and I were Brandon and what's her name? I don't remember.
No,
his cheerleader girlfriend. And the kids were totally separate. So this year again, we're going to do.
See, in my perfect world, I would have had them be Goonies, but like
Shunk and Sloth.
Nobody wants to just be all my '80s pop culture costume ideas. It's a bummer. So no, now we're forced to dress up together again. Although years ago we did Friday Night Lights, and that was a good time.
Oh, that was
the
really
couple.
Good.
That was
one
great
of my
costume.
best costumes. I forgot about that.
And Pretty Woman, hooker costume. Still one of my best costumes.
You should share a photo with that.
I will.
And we'll share the Friday Night Lights one as well.
Hooker with a heart of gold. But this is a good segue, isn't it?
Yeah, so the kids no longer want anything to do with us when it comes to Halloween costumes, and they also do no longer want to be in the house with us. It's not even up to them. I think they would prefer, although the Hammer likes going to school. Detective Munch would like to be home all the time. He does not like school. So,
that's not true. He does, but he doesn't.
It's a pretty good adjustment to middle school so far, knock on wood. So I asked a couple of questions. So before we get into the actual question where it was open-ended and I got some answers, I asked 2 poll questions. Poll question number 1 was, were you excited to send all your kids to school this year, or did you miss them? 78% of the people who responded were excited, and only 22% missed them.
Well, it's been a rough year and a half.
It has.
And the way you said it also didn't pertain to just kindergarten. It had to do with all your kids.
Sure.
So, I mean...
Yeah, well, somebody did respond later that they were so glad that their teenagers out of the house, which is a different beast than a kindergartner.
Yeah, right. Sure. No, I mean, no offense to Detective Munch. I'm used to him being out of the house.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't miss him that much. He's fine. Plus, he's got, like, a tween attitude. I don't need that shit, like, 24 hours a day. Bye. Goodbye. Give me the cuddly one. Good riddance. Who will, like, go to fun adventures with me and be all happy-go-lucky and give me snuggles. That's what I want. That's what I'm looking for.
I don't get snuggles, so it's neither here nor there for me. So poll question number 2, something else we maybe want to touch on a little bit was, do you wish you still had a little one around? So this is what you're talking about, where, like, the old kid, who cares? The old baby, nobody cares anymore. New baby, like, you want him around because he's cuddly and cute and little in a way that the old kid, nobody gives a shit anymore. He's doing his own thing. 30% said they wish they still had a little one around, and 70% glad to be there. Look, it's not a shock that people on my feed exactly are like, I have too many kids. I don't want any of these kids, and I am admittedly in that boat. I would not want to have a 3rd kid for a variety of reasons: financial, health, lifestyle, all that stuff. I will admit, I love having a little.
Fucking
I got a lot of fucking big plans. I got a lot of big plans. A lot more day drinking. A lot more day drinking with no worries.
You don't even day drink because
I can't because I have children around. Fine. That's how I could be a dinosaur. I'm so old. I can be a dinosaur. That's my costume.
Why don't you start tempting me with all the amazing shit that's going to go down?
I will think about it. Well, a lot of it involves me being by myself. Kids. That's the thing. We can.
Well, that's a whole different conversation, isn't it, darling?
We'll put that poll up after this. I think I know where my buried stands. So,
and yeah, I think it is a little sad, like, especially because knowing it's the last one, I have always been, I have to say, despite all of the stuff, like, you know, everyone's saying
stepping out of character.
No, but you know, because of course in the moment when there's all the shit going down, it's not character, you know, you're not going to enjoy every minute, but I did know that I would miss it.
Right. So here's my
I've never thought that I wouldn't miss it. I've known from day one that one day I would miss this. Here's
my thing. It's not that I don't miss having a little kid. It's that I don't think about it. I don't want to think about this stuff. Why am I going to dwell on this kind of stuff that makes me sad? If I were to sit here and think about it the way she does, I would probably get sad and regretful and all this shit. I'm like a shark. You got to move forward. You got to keep it going.
And buried in a nutshell, and that's the problem.
Emotions are bad.
About
okay?
emotions.
Let's get real. Why do I want to feel bad?
If anyone has a therapist they'd like to recommend, why don't you send that over?
We've talked about it. When you used to watch, when people watch, what's that show? Just Us, One of Us. What's that stupid show with the big family?
I don't know. I watched that for like one season.
Every single time we used to watch Parenthood, you would cry during it. And I would be like, we should stop watching this. And you'd be like, no, I like the crying.
I like to feel things.
All right, fine.
I like to know that I'm alive. Are you?
I don't know.
Knock, man.
I'm not alive.
What is wrong with you? You have actual problems.
Anyway,
which gives me actual problems.
The main question I asked, and we got a lot of responses, was what kind of feelings did having or does having an empty house for the first time in a while or for the first time ever stir up, right? So I kind of broke these up into the people that were sort of like mom and Barry were a little bummed by it and sad about it, the people that are relieved and feel it's kind of a positive thing, and the mix. So the people who are bummed, so here's one thing I think is totally true. So after market, and both E's are 3, so after _ market with 3s for E's, says her feelings, she's been sad and she's had a lot more time alone with her thoughts, like thinking about this stuff. And I think that's something we're going to get into here a little bit as we go on, is like Bethany _C_7 says she feels a lack of purpose. She's like, nobody needs me 24/7, which is a little bit different because it's not like our kids are 18 and gone, right? Like the Hammer, when he gets home, and even Detective Munch, they still need us, right? They're still young enough to need us. So it's not like they're suddenly adults and on their own. But suddenly having nobody in the house that you have to take care of for a solid 6 hours or whatever, to me, it's not like, oh shit, like it's not a big deal. It's not a long period of time. He's still going to comes home around 2 or 3 and you have the day with him and stuff. But to you, it's like all we really have now are the weekends. And during those 6 hours, I don't have that much to do, right? So a couple people were like, Audra Lovejoy was like, now, like, not having kids around, I have to be on top of all, like, the house cleaning and shit, and I don't like doing that stuff. She doesn't want her purpose to just be, like, cleaning the house and domestic bullshit.
Like, I mean, so I'm also kind of like, I think a lot of women right now, at the beginning of the pandemic, I stopped doing what I was doing professionally and have been, like, fucking pandemic parent and doing the remote and doing all the other shit, and I have been doing less professional stuff and kind of getting sort of back into some of that, but still not full time. So yeah, the job becomes, and I think this is for a lot of stay-at-home parents, and I see some of the comments here, that it's like, okay, so you still have your job, but you've been demoted to basically doing the worst fucking parts of the job. It's like, now you only do, like, if you have a office job, now you just, do the financials, or, I don't know, the fucking accounting, or whatever. The worst possible part of your job you can think of, guys, that's what you do, because
as a parent
all day
kids
long,
aren't around,
you're just doing the cleaning, and you're the housewife, which to me, I'm like, no fucking thanks.
Right. Well, that's exactly what Audra Lovejoy said. She said, I don't like cleaning laundry errands. I don't have my kids being around all the time as an excuse for having a pit of a house, because you can spend the 6 hours they're gone cleaning. Yes. Why don't you?
And I do.
I'm kidding.
Spend a lot of time cleaning. You know why? Because yesterday we're sitting on the bed.
It was not a wrapper.
Oh my God!
It was like a toenail or something.
That's worse.
I said that on purpose.
We're sitting on the bed, and Dad and Barry just flick something across the room, and I'm like,
vacuum will
is
get
that
it.
Garbage? And he's like, it's not garbage. It's just something like the vacuum will pick up. And I'm like, so garbage?
You let the kids eat Ritz in the bed. I don't want crumbs in my bed, so I flicked it off. The Roomba will get it.
What Roomba? We don't have a Roomba.
Right. Roomba, hit me up.
Who's going to run the vacuum most likely?
I run the vacuum.
What's the percentage-wise?
I don't know, 20?
At best.
Okay, well, anyway, Shell Wyatt says, I'm a stay-at-home mom and my youngest just started school. She feels she needs to justify her worth. First of all, no, you don't. Right? This is the thing. Stay-at-home moms and stay-at-home parents feel the need to justify their worth to assholes who are like, oh, what did you do all day? Or like the partner who comes home from working an office job is like, well, how did you fill your time? Whatever. Motherfucker, I've been doing a ton of stuff, right? You don't need to justify your worth to me. Just your existence is worthwhile to me and to everybody.
Aww,
right? I've never been like, oh, what have you done all day? But what you do need is kind of something to occupy your time, and you yourself want to do something more than just domestics or whatever. And until you have that, I think the whole of not having the kids around, I think will be bigger. But yes, you used to have a much bigger career and stuff, and the pandemic partially derailed that, right? And now you're kind of like, what can I do career-wise or something else-wise to get back into it?
Right. The pandemic and some other various things, yes.
Health and stuff.
Has definitely done that. And I have been looking back into that. That being said, have been filling the days a bit more, even just with other projects and things, and so that's good. But yes, to the person who says they, have to, a million times worse. First of all, I will say, the other shit that gets done, and when I look back and I say I have regret about the things I didn't do last year, I do know that a lot of those hours were spent like fucking either ordering groceries or going to get groceries once we started doing that again, or doing all those bullshit errands that fill up a day,
They fill it up really easily, too. It sucks.
And so, like, even those things have to get done, and that happens during the school hours for me, because when, they come home, I want to be available, because that is the time we get. Plus, then you have to start doing getting everything ready for the next day of school, and all of that starts all over again. And dinner, just fucking dinner all the
every
time.
day having to come
dinner.
up with dinner.
And after a pandemic, I just never want to make dinner again. And it's not even making dinner so much as cleaning the fucking kitchen. And I'm so sick of that kitchen. I'm gonna burn that shit down.
All right.
I'm so sick of all of it. Anyway, off topic.
Anyway, so Lindsay Ray Mack says she didn't know what to do with herself when her kids left the house. That boring girl, that _boring_girl_you_, enough of these underscores, says she felt empty and somewhat rudderless. She was so used to scheduling her day around her kids. But then she says it's been nice though, right? So having the time to yourself, I think, has been nice for a lot of people. Live life upside down. Here's a potential solution. She says it was too quiet. I had to get 2 dogs to fill the void. We're not getting a dog.
Okay, no. So Detective Munch actually said when I said I missed them at the beginning when they first went back to school, he's like, "You need to get a dog." Mm-hmm. So
they desperately want
it's either
a dog
or baby. So what do you want?
No,
what
a
do you
cat.
want? No,
Perfect.
I'm allergic to cats.
Fuck that.
A
Cats
lot.
are great.
And so
Cats
is
get
your
a bad
kid.
rap. I don't care.
Your
I've already
children-
said I don't care about my kids. I mean, I bring a couple of cats in the house. I'm all for it.
Okay, fuck off.
I love me some cats. I like dogs too, but the kind of dog I want is too big for an apartment. We don't have a yard. Until we move to the burbs, we ain't getting no dog. Getting a border collie, an Australian shepherd. That's the kind of shit I want.
I'm just going to show up with whatever the fuck I want. Might
This
be
is
a
the
baby,
thing.
might be
I
a
hate
dog.
this shit, because
You
that
just
would
deal with
work,
it.
right? She would do that, and then I'd be fucking, okay,
You would
honey.
love the dog. That's what would happen.
same
You'd be
with
like,
the kids.
"Oh my god, I love the dog." See, or a baby. You'd be like, "Oh my god, I love the baby." What do you know?
I don't know. I might resent that baby a little bit. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, so there were some people who, like me, were a little bit more relieved about the whole situation.
Oh wait,
there was
actually,
somebody
when
else
we're
you wanted to
talking
mention?
about the baby, was that we were one and done, but the quieter the house got, the more we questioned it.
Whether we should be
And
one
I
and done.
definitely
We're two
saw
and done.
this, in online and stuff, and people in general saying this, that it does make you question it. And like, we have always been, as if you've been on this page, like, okay, that's it, no more kids. But it definitely made me just think about the fact, like, wait, we're just never gonna have a little toddler around? Like, that's sad.
Theoretical babies are the best kind. Theoretical toddlers, theoretical kids are the best kind. When you actually have the kid,
I don't know.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
I don't know. Actually,
It's
if
a
you
lot.
recall back, you really fucking love the toddler
Yes,
years.
sure.
Like, that's his bread and butter. He loves basically from like 1 to 5 or 6.
Well-
it is his zone.
But we hope,
and,
to be
you
fair-
are obsessed with the hammer to this day.
To be fair,
But
we
it's
haven't
gonna go
gotten to
down-
the teen years. That could be where I really start to shine.
No, it's not. I can already see how you are with the tween years, and I don't predict it going all that great.
He's a punk. Let's be honest.
No,
it's not all on
he's
me.
not.
I know he's not.
He's
He
a
is.
sweet
He totally
kid.
is.
I
Anyway,
mean, the worst
he's very
parts about
sweet.
him are basically yours.
Well, that's obvious. So there were a lot of people who are a little bit more aligned with me. Obviously, from the poll numbers, 78% said they didn't miss, or they were excited to send the kids to school, and 70% said they're glad to be done. So a lot of people did say that they were relieved or were happy with the kids being out of school.
Although they had less to say, but go
They
ahead.
did
What
have
are
a
your
little-
comments?
So here's what KelBrett636 said, that the kids are only gone for 6 hours, so she's feeling good about being able to get some stuff done, right? So that's what I'm thinking, right? Especially with the toddler who has a slightly shorter day, right? So he's gone for a while, you get your stuff done, and then he's back, and he's still a little he's not a toddler,
Well, you
he's
don't
still a
have
little
a toddler.
5-year-old. I know.
The
You still
5-year-old's
get the
gone a long
snuggies.
time.
He's still going to be snuggling you for another couple of years.
Okay, whatever, man.
I'm just saying. Angel Star 975 said all she felt was relief when her kids left the house. She said, and here's a key point. She said her kid needs in-person school, and so does she. Now, I would agree with this, right? So the hammer has a speech delay and has some kind of OT stuff that
Oh, yeah.
we simply
No,
weren't
we
equipped to
don't
help
deny
with. We're not denying it,
that
and I'm not
at
saying you
all.
are either. He needs to be back in school. Your thing isn't like, fuck school, he shouldn't be back in school, he doesn't need this kind of
No, not at all.
socialization or
I
anything
love
like
that.
that.
And
Obviously, yeah.
And I love to see how excited he is about school.
He loves going to
and like
school.
sometimes he does get a little bit sad, like especially on Sundays, and being like, I'm sad the weekend's over, because it is still an adjustment going from like being home all the time
But
to
then when it's
being
like,
gone 6 hours a
when
day.
it's time to get out the door, there's
Oh,
no
yeah,
hesitation.
no problem.
Not the way
It's
Detective
more
Munch
like,
was as a kid.
Move your ass, Mom. I'm going to
Yeah.
be late for circle time. Like, get your shit together.
Were you late today, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're perennially late. She'll tell you. She blames it being on me having to go to the bathroom every time right before we leave the house, which is just a practical thing to do. You go to the bathroom right before you leave to minimize the chances that you have to go to the bathroom while you're in the car or doing whatever activity you're doing. You take longer than me almost every time. You're the reason we're late. This is another...
No. That's when we're all together going somewhere we're late. No. That's a different thing. I'm talking about when we're going to school and I'm late. Sure, that's fine. Whatever, that's on me. You're not involved in that. That is its own episode. Don't get me started.
Anyway. So, Felshem, our friend Felicia, who she says that she likes having them, the fact that they have their own days again. And you have your own days back as well, so that when you get up, when you come together at the end of the day, you don't know every detail about each other's days. I certainly I need to catch up on the stuff my kids have been doing in Minecraft. Like when I get off work, I'm like, hey, how was Minecraft? Just kidding. I would never ask them that. I don't have to ask them because they will tell me every detail of whatever happened in Minecraft and Roblox. And B, I don't want to know. I'm not interested in any of this. You don't like hearing about their video game stories.
No, the video game stories I can't talk about.
I don't know if Felshem's kids... Well, see, now that they go to school, they're not playing video games at school, so...
They have other things to talk about. But they don't...
The Hammer will tell you, right?
No, the Hammer does. I mean, here's the thing. I do love hearing the stories he tells, and he does tell stuff. I mean, it's little bits and pieces, right? I talked to some of the other kindergarten moms, and sometimes there's a couple that are like, okay, what do you got? Because he'll tell me nothing.
Right, you have to piece it together from different sources.
Right, all the moms
what
are
happened during
the
day.
Like, okay, so this is what I think. Okay, and especially it's really hard to have a kindergartner this year because in COVID rules in our schools and stuff, you can't go in the building. Yeah. You never see the teachers. The teachers are like a mystery to us because you have no interaction. There's no sweet things like Family Fridays where you get to interact. It just... all those cool things that are really awesome about kindergarten that make them extra special, we are missing out on. And that kind of sucks too, because that's special and that's what I want.
Well, and the kids would love it when you came to the school too, right? So they're missing out on that a little bit too. Although I would be curious because when we would go to Detective Munch's things, when we would go to Detective Munch's things and do reading Fridays or whatever those things were called, he would be upset when we had to leave, when he was in kindergarten. I wonder if that would happen with the Hammer. I bet no.
I don't think so.
You wouldn't even know we were there.
Because one day I snuck into the classroom accidentally, and he was really excited to show me everything, but then when it was time for me to leave, it was all right, peace out, bye. He just doesn't give a shit.
No, he's got his own life.
He does, and I do like hearing about that life at the end of the day, what I can get out of him. But we're also spoiled from having remote school where you literally hear everything, and I'm okay, now tell me about math.
But the downside
and then what
of
about
that,
science? And he's like, listen, I'm done talking about school now.
The downside of hearing everything when they're in remote schools is that the teachers could hear you yell, get back to your desk all the time and that kind of shit. Because Detective Munch was wandering away from his desk constantly.
Oh, yeah. Well, the older ones, sure. They know. They know what's going on.
Okay, so I don't know how to pronounce this. Manonor Camp says, as a single mom to a teenager, I'm so grateful when she's at school. So I alluded to this a little bit earlier. We don't have teenagers, right? So while the tweenager can be difficult to deal with sometimes, we're never get the hell out. I am actually quite a lot, get the hell out of the house, but certainly not with the Hammer.
Although I will say, with him last year, when it was a decision whether or not to send him back to hybrid, and there was definitely a huge health question, especially as a high-risk person.
Yes.
We had kind of gotten in a rhythm that I liked, especially, you know what I mean? It was we all had gotten used to our little cocoon.
But when we sent him back
hard.
last year and this year, we're not sending them back because we want them out of the house, although, it's helpful for me working from home. We send them back because it's good for them, right? We want them to be back in school and see their friends, and especially after Detective Munch was robbed of the last year and a half at his school, the only school he's ever really known. But he's adjusting pretty well. But unlike a teenager who you don't want to be around and they don't want to be around you, at least if I'm remembering my own teenage life correctly, that is a slightly different thing. So I can understand Manonor Camp's relief at having the teenager out of the house.
I think it's about time we send you back.
To school?
Anywhere.
I could not deal with homework. That's the one thing I like about having a job is there's no homework. Sometimes you have stuff that you have to do. Oh, shit. I just forgot a couple things I have to do. But yeah, no homework. All right. So then there were a bunch of people who were mixed on it, right? Some good, some bad, which is, life isn't black and white. Life is gray, right? And that's what these people brought down. So Grumpy JH says that they're relieved that the nuts toddler is out of the house, but they miss him like crazy, right? So we love having the hammer around, right? He's not too nuts.
He's a good time.
He's a good time guy.
He's kind of easy to deal with. And he'll amuse himself, because that's part of it. I'm sure if he was out of his mind, that would be a lot. This would be a whole different episode, guys.
Yeah, if it was one of those crazy psycho kids, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Some of these, I'm jumping here to Sarah Dowsett. Kind of nice to get a chance to miss them. Kind of guilty for not making most of it, most of the time
you had with them.
And maybe this is a kind of good full circle
back
thing
to the beginning
to sort of end with. Because,
bring the tears back. Let's bring the tears back.
Because yes, there is that. Because here's the thing, and I think that some people, I don't know, some people probably do feel this way. We were given all this time, quotes, air quotes, during the pandemic, but it's not the quality time you wanted, right?
It wasn't an ideal situation.
It was not an ideal situation. Like at the very beginning, you were just literally locked up in your homes, and then things slowly opened, but we were pretty conservative, and then it's hard.
It wasn't an ideal situation. We were quarantined. We were essentially just totally locked in our houses.
Right, at the very beginning. And that I almost have pleasant memories of. I mean, after I got over COVID.
Yeah.
But because it was just sort of, it's everyone's in it together, right?
And there's nothing you can do about it, right?
Right.
You're just kind
it's just like
you're in your little bubble and you're surviving, and you're like, you know what? You weren't worried about. You didn't have like standards and expectations. It was more like, we need to survive and get through this. If you guys need extra screen time, if we're going to lay in bed and watch a movie a little bit longer more than we would.
Right.
Like even my work, there were slightly fewer expectations at the very beginning as everyone was adjusting to conference calls and Zooms and doing all that kind of stuff. So the standards were lower and no one was really worried too much. We thought it was going to be shorter than it was.
Yeah, please, everyone remember that shit, please. It's 2 weeks, 6 weeks. So funny. But then, I think we did make the most of like summers and made some great memories doing all of that. And, I think we did a lot of that. I think then as it goes on, it gets into a rut. So when this person says they kind of guilty for not making the most of the time with them, I definitely do too. Because I understand, like, I would set reminders like take them to the playground, and then just wouldn't fucking happen. I mean, it's easy. It's been a really long road. I mean,
but here's my thing though. But like, you can look back on that stuff, and all you remember is the fact that you didn't do the thing. You don't necessarily remember the circumstances surrounding it. Like maybe your symptoms were acting up that day. You didn't feel well. Maybe the kids were being dicks and you didn't want to reward them with something like that. Like there's a million different things. Maybe I had too much to do and couldn't stay home with one of them when you went out with the other or whatever. Like there's a million reasons. And at the beginning, we weren't even allowed to go to playgrounds. Remember, they were actually
closed up.
Yeah.
So, it took a while. But I know that there were other things in there too. So
the point isn't to regret. The point is to move forward and, make those changes so that you don't regret in the future, which is not to say that I want to do all sorts of stuff, which is what you're like more than ever.
No,
you
want to
maximize every weekend. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Which unfortunately I bought like that Sunday NFL package for you to watch football every single Sunday.
1 in 5, baby.
Luckily your team is not so great. So
that's not luckily.
It's okay if you can miss a few, it feels to me.
Well, so. I disagree. I like to soak up the pain of every loss. But I was just going to say something and I forgot what it was. But I just don't see, like, this is where kind of this thing started, whereas you'll get sad every once in a while about not having like a little kid around, or worried that he's not going to be a little kid for that much longer, and B, what could I have done more to maximize the little kid years or the little kid year and a half that we had. And to me, we did maximize it. We had a lot more family time than we normally would have. They're going to remember that. They're not going to remember not going to the playground those couple of times that you think that we didn't go to the playground. So I don't think there's anything to sweat.
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome. Probably the worst decision either of us has made over the past year and a half was when I shaved, right? Really not enjoying it. I'm hoping it's back by the weekend. You hate beards, so it's really tough.
You got to do scruff, man. We can't have beards this winter. Like, I'm not dealing with it. I've got enough on my plate. I don't need that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're emotional live wire right now.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Seasonal depression is coming to join my regular depression. I don't need a beard on top of that. So, get it together.
A lot of people, beards bring them joy.
Yeah, well, go find one.
Hit me up. DM. My DMs are open. You can find me and Mom and Buried at on Instagram as Dad and Buried and Mom and Buried.
Yeah.
Listen and continue listening. And please, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Leave us a review on Apple. That would be great. You can hear us wherever you hear your podcast. Catch us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. And we will be back, or maybe Pete and I will be back next week to talk about something. I promise neither one of us will start crying next week. That was a Mom and Buried special. It's okay.
Yeah, well...
Although, she may cry the week after when I blow her birthday. But we'll see. Thanks for listening, guys.
Good luck.
I don't know why you would still be watching This Isn't a Marvel Movie, no matter how much I look like Paul Rudd, which you can deny it all you want. It's there in the eyes, I think. I'm young looking like him. If you enjoyed the podcast, which you obviously did or you wouldn't be listening still, sign up on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you want to listen to. Comment here on YouTube. Subscribe. Hit that like button. We want to hear from you. Comments, questions, dirty jokes, money. All the money you can give us. We'd love it all. Catch you next time.